بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
Assalamu alaikum. It is Monday, the 27th of June 2022, and in our series Reflections on the Holy Quran, this is broadcast number 329. Currently, we are looking at Al-Baqarah chapter 2, verse 102, and this is the 10th broadcast about words of that verse of the Holy Quran. These broadcasts are brought to you by LASER, Lahore India School of Education in Religion, which is a department of Ahmadiyya Anjuman Islam or Lahore India movement. The Ahmadiyya movement was founded by Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib Rahmatullah Alayh, and his teaching was that although people say that an old prophet will come after the Holy Prophet Muhammad, this is incorrect, because the Holy Quran says about the Holy Prophet Muhammad that he is Khatamun Nabiyyin, and the Holy Prophet explained it by saying, La Nabiya Ba'di, there is no prophet after me. He didn't give an exception. There is no prophet after me. So there cannot be any prophets, old ones or new ones. Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad said that his claim was that in accordance with the hadith, he was the mujaddid of his century. Just like there had been previous mujaddids for previous ages. But he explained that his distinction was the fact that other ahadith spoke of a Messiah and Mahdi coming to guide Muslims, and those titles applied to him. So he was the promised Messiah and the Mahdi. Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad drew Muslims' attention to the fact that yes, this is a matter on which we disagree, but we mustn't call each other kafir. And he drew Muslims' attention to the hadith of the Holy Prophet, which says that if one reciter of the kalima says to another reciter of the kalima, you're not a Muslim, it is the person saying it who is in fact not Muslim. So we should avoid such heresy making and be one united ummah. Hazrat Sahib also taught that people believe that some prophetic revelation is not in the Holy Quran, and some verses of the Holy Quran are abrogated. He said this is totally wrong, because God has said in the Holy Quran that He has revealed it, and He is its guardian. So if God is guiding, but if God is guarding the Holy Quran, so how is it possible for some prophetic revelation to get missed? And even more strangely, for some that is actually a part of the Holy Quran, for it to be abrogated. And Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad said that jihad is a fundamental duty of every single Muslim. But for the definition of jihad, what is jihad? We have to look at the words of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. When coming back from fighting, the Holy Prophet said that Muslims are returning from the minor jihad to the major jihad, and explained that the major jihad is jihad bin nafs, the jihad with your own self, your own desires, your greed, your enmity, your jealousy, your arrogance. So jihad against all of those things. So we should remember the wise words of our beloved Prophet Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Let us now turn to Al-Baqarah verse 18. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وما يعلمان من أحد حتى يقولا إنما نحن فتنة فلا تكفر. This follows on with the thing about Harut and Marut. Nor did they teach it to anyone, so that they should have said, we are only a trial, so disbelieve not. So today we are going to look at the words wamaa, yu'alliman, min, and ahadin. So these are the words we are going to look at today. So let's go to the dictionary. Wamaa. Well, as I keep explaining, that a lot of what we call words in other languages are actually expressions rather than individual words. And I've given this example many times. For example, the noun in Arabic for book is kitab. So if you say kitabi, that is my book. E is added, ya is added at the end of kitab. And this is why many people in grammar say that they are expressions. They say it's a word consisting of so many morphological segments. So they would say this word consists of two morphological segments. Wa, which means and ma, which means no or not. So that's about it. There's not a lot more one can say about that. So the next word we have is yu'allimani, and its root is ayn, laam, meem. And from these three letters, we find in the Holy Quran 14 different words, and in total they appear in the Quran 854 times. 382 times as alima, and 163 times as alim, and 105 times as ilm, and 73 times as alameen, and 49 times as alam, and 41 times as allama, and I don't know, I can't remember if I mentioned alim, which is 163 times, and 18 times as alim, and 11 times as ma'alum. So, and people who know Urdu, Farsi, and so on, it's easy for them because they know that if you join together those letters, it makes ilm. And the loose definition is knowledge. And knowledge you can gain, you can categorize in two ways. And one is by sort of how you find out something. It could be that, like a person's name. For example, you could say Shahid. And which Shahid? It may be that there are many Shahids. Or Shahid living in Swindon. Oh, okay. So that narrows it down. So it's not Shahid living in Lahore. It's not Shahid living in New York. It's not Shahid living in Buenos Aires. It's Shahid who lives in Swindon. And here you can see that both things have to be combined. One is a name, which should give you all the information about the person. But there still wasn't enough information. So an adjective had to be added. Extra information had to be given. For you to be able to determine which person. And that is the difficulty by trying to understand something just by its attributes. That there may be many people, there may be many things that have the same attribute. Oh, what's that animal called that has four legs? The cat has four legs, dog has four legs, horse has four legs, cow has four legs. Which one are you talking about? Giraffes and lions and elephants and tigers and cheetahs, and the list goes on and on and on. So you have to give extra information so that people can understand what you're talking about. Another way is to actually use the antonym, the opposite, what it is not. Like in chapter 8, verse 60, the Holy Quran says, La ta'alamu lahumullahu ya'alamuhum. Ya'lamuhum. What you don't know, God knows. So this is defining something by a negative. What is it that we're trying to understand? This is God's knowledge. So you are doing it by a negative. How? Well, a human being can only know a very limited and small amount. I mean, people don't know everything about botany and zoology and astronomy and a thousand other things. That verse is saying what you don't know, God knows it. Another way of saying that is God knows everything. Now, there's another way of categorizing knowledge, and that is that there are some theoretical subjects. And if you study them and you understand them, etc., then you have gained all the knowledge that is. It's like calculus. You want to learn calculus, learn differentiation and integration and how to calculate area under a curve and how to calculate the volume of a solid of rotation as it's called, blah, blah, blah. And once you can do that with a pencil and paper, that's it. You've got all the information. You don't need to do anything else to perfect your knowledge. But then there are areas. Take the example of surgery. If you did the same thing with surgery as you do with calculus, do you think you would be able to take out someone's appendix? I mean, someone is clutching their stomach and they collapsed on the floor and running a high temperature and so on. Can you say, oh, that's okay, just get me a knife from the kitchen? I read a book on how to take out appendix yesterday. Now let's have a go at it. 1,000 things might happen. Take the example of, let's say, a car mechanic. He attends college, he learns about engines and this and that and so on in theory. And then when he goes back to work, if he's an apprentice, he learns about the practical aspects. I mean, supposing you want to change the air filter on your car. You read a book and it says, oh, well, that's okay, undo those 3 bolts, take the top off, take out the old filter, it's probably black. Put the new one in, put the lid back on, tighten the screw, the bolts or the screws, and that's it. Easy. But then when you go to try and unscrew the bolts of the nuts, you find that they were rusty and they jammed together. Now, the book doesn't tell you how to deal with that. The book just says, undo the bolt. Easy peasy. So you say, okay, I'll put some muscle into it. And you try and force it. And then you break it. What do you do now? The book doesn't tell you. The point is that theoretical knowledge, although useful, doesn't complete your understanding of that task, that thing. So, sort of practical is required. And God says, the words like ilm and so on are used in the Holy Quran. The Holy Quran says, Ar-Rahmanu Allama al-Quran, chapter 55, verses 1 and 2. Rahman. Now, when people translate that, they say, Allah the merciful, the beneficent. The word Allah is not there. People say God the beneficent. The word God is not there. It just says the beneficent. Anyway, what's he done? Allama al-Quran. He taught the Quran. And in another place, talking generally about knowledge, this is chapter 96, verse 4, Allama bil qalb. And he taught knowledge through the pen. That's referring to the fact that, preservation of knowledge is very important. And humanity only started to develop when they started to preserve knowledge. What did God teach you? Chapter 6, verse 94. وَأُلِّمْتُمْ مَا لَمْ تَعْلَمُوا. He taught you things that you didn't know. And on the positive side, وَيُؤَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ. Chapter 3, verse 164. God taught you the book and wisdom. Now, the word book is also used for the Holy Quran. It's also used for the law, etc. So, and we have expressions like alim, come from the same root, which means the universe. Alim also means a scholar, but it also means the universe. But in Arabic, what people do is they don't talk about alim as the universe, they talk about alimul insan, the universe of humans, alimul haywan, universe of animals, alimu binabat. So they categorize things which are similar, they put it in one category, and all of them in that category they say is alim. All the things in that category are there. Alim of whatever. And this is why God is called Rabbul Alameen. He is Rabb of all the categories. Whether it's the Alim al Insan or Alim al Haywan, whatever it is. He is the Rabb of all of them. Not just one or two, and three can do their own thing. No. And he develops them, finds them in a lowly state, an inferior state, and then develops them. Take the example of a baby. Can't do anything. Mothers have to feed them, clean them, then they learn to crawl, then they learn to walk, and so on. So God develops them until they are perfected. Next one is min. Well, that just means any. And the next one we have is ahad. So it consists of three letters, and those three letters are its root: hamza, ha, and daal. And these two letters are used to make two. These three letters are used to make two words, and in total they appear 85 times in the Holy Quran. 74 times as ahad, and 11 times as ihta. Like it says, La nufarriqu bayna ahadin. Mean any of them. Used twice in that sense. Hatta iza khadara ahadahumul maut. One of them. So it's used both in the positive sense and the negative sense. For example, if you knock on the door and someone says, "What's happening? You're knocking on the door." You can say, not even one person is home. So this is, you're using it in a negative sense. But then, in a positive sense, it will mean one. For example, we say, Qul huwallahu ahad, chapter 112, verse 1. Now, this ahad is not necessarily one as in maths when we're talking about God. Here it will mean unique, the only one, the one without comparison. Other things and people you can compare. You remember that boy? Which one? We were at the cinema, he was there, he was a bit taller than you. So you're doing a comparison. But God is incomparable. He's unique. So you can't compare him, with other people. I mean, sometimes people do, sometimes when, one person tries to order another person about, you know, they can say, well, who do you think you are? God? You're telling me do this, don't do this, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm not going to listen to you. You're not God. So, there is that sort of negative comparison, but you can't compare him with anything to describe him. As I was saying, um, if you see his dining table, compare it to mine. It's twice the size or half the size or whatever. So when God is concerned, Ahad means unique, not the arithmetic one where you can add another one to it and it will make two. That is all for today. So I take my leave of you with the prayer that whoever you are and wherever you may be, may Allah keep all of you safe and sound and free from harm. Assalamu alaikum, Khuda Hafiz, and goodbye.